Konnichiwa! Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How's it all going? You know, one thing that I haven't made a video about in a while are aliens. And you know me, I love me aliens. I want to start off by saying that I'm a believer. You know, I know that I make these videos and I come across as somebody that probably is like too much of a skeptic, but if there's one thing that I hope in life to be true is that aliens will one day visit us, okay? Look, I already get it. I'm too goddamn old to explore the oceans, and I'm too goddamn young to absolutely explore the stars. So I hope in some way the aliens come to us and visit. So for the last month, ladies and gentlemen, there's been something brewing for anybody that hasn't been picking up. June 1st, a new asteroid got discovered, 31/Atlas. Now, this is a big paper, okay? Is the interstellar object alien technology? So you might be like, whoa, what kind of crackhead came up with this? Now, normally I wouldn't be talking about it, but one of the crackheads is Avi Loeb. In fact, one of the departments this came out of was the astronomy department at Harvard University, okay? So to give you an idea, this is not some crackpot talking about this. These are people from Harvard, possibly bringing up a paper that talks about alien technology. Could it be an alien ship? Could it be something else? Let's try to figure it out. So July 1st, astronomers spotted this image, right? This thing. And they basically dubbed it A11PL3Z. So once NASA had confirmed that this was actually not just some new asteroid, in fact, it was actually an interstellar visitor, they renamed it to 31/Atlas. And in fact, there's been so much shit that has been coming out, like from the Hindustani Times, okay, from Bharat itself, from India, whatever AI slop image they threw up, this little giant flying turd, it could be nuclear powered, says a Harvard scientist, okay? So there's a lot of claims being made, but one thing that I want to start off with is obviously show the audience what the fuck this thing looks like. So according to NASA, they've showcased what the trajectory of such a thing is. So 31 is actually kind of coming in between Earth and Mars. So yeah, it's not something that's hitting close to us. And if you want something that shows you, how lucky you are every single day to be alive, is these are just asteroid watches. So for instance, this is our planet right here. This is from eyes.nasa.gov, a government website. And right here, they actually showcase the closest asteroids to us. So things like 1998 SH2, 2025 Q07, 2025 QV5, QK6, yada, yada, yada. So this one that looks like it's barreling towards us, that'll cross by Earth in around a day, 18 hours, 45 minutes, and 40 seconds. And you might be like, but Muda, what if it hits us? Well, it'll burn up in the atmosphere because it's only estimated to be 16.7 meters long, okay? Usually when you got like asteroids the size of like, I think it's like what is the actual name of it? The one that killed the dinosaurs. Or Chicxulub, the crater itself, the one that actually hit the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. And I don't know if these images are 3D renders or AI renders or whatever, but that is a rough explanation of what it looks like. Now, when an asteroid that size hits Earth, and I believe underneath this was like limestone deposits that led to even like a much bigger explosion, this ripples throughout the entire world, and it effectively killed all the dinosaurs, okay? So there's a reason why the dinosaurs don't exist. It's because a space rock hit Earth in such a way that it basically destroyed everything, okay? There's like a million fucking nukes going off. Now, if another asteroid hits us, we're basically fucked, okay? We are dead from my understanding in the similar manner of this, okay? So that's why a lot of billionaires, I think, are paying big money to fly off to Mars or colonize other planets. So if the worst happens, at least they're alive, okay? Goddamn. So to give you an idea, scientists look at images like this little animation where, again, they look through a Atlas telescope, which that's why it's named Atlas. Like it's a telescope they have, the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, that is in Chile. So what they have is they saw this little speck basically just like fly across. And of course, all of this happened, as you can see, within this like hour, right? So from 5:15 all the way to 6:20. So within the hour, they saw that move. Now, generally, when you see that, you're like, oh shit, something's moving really fast. Could it be an Alamau? Could it be a visitor? Well, let's see the actual logic behind it. Let's see how we came to this crazy explanation. So Avi Loeb, or Avi Loeb, is an Israeli-American theoretical physicist who works on astrophysics and cosmology. And since 2007, he's been the director of the Institute for Theory and Computation at the Center of Astrophysics. Okay, so this guy is apparently pretty big news when it comes to this. Now, Loeb is a bit of a controversial figure in certain ways too. He really is somebody that wants to prove extraterrestrial life is real. There have been other situations like Oumuamua situation a little bit. This was another paper where Avi Loeb from Harvard University wrote about the possibility of this large interstellar object discovered near Earth. This actual Oumuamua that appeared to, I guess, be the sort of like alien-looking ship, according to this person, right? And again, a lot of the important parts is that these are objects from outside the solar system, which from my understanding, there's only been 3, including 31 Atlas, which is a pretty huge deal at the end of the day. Now, of course, obviously, this is a paper that you can read, you can try to understand, but obviously they start talking about the possibility of an artificial origin, right? A possibility that this could actually be an object that is, an alien spacecraft, an alien piece of technology in nature, right? Now, I also feel that the financial incentive for Loeb is pretty obvious. There are books that are being sold on Amazon, hard copy, Kindle, whatever, and you can just read these for yourself, where they talk about the first sign of intelligent life beyond Earth. But obviously, there have been other, scientists who have looked into this and said, listen, guys, Oumuamua is not an alien spaceship, and the authors of the paper insult honest scientific inquiry to even suggest it. And this isn't some no-name Redditor, this is Paul Sutter, who's an astrophysicist at Ohio State University. In fact, Benjamin Weiner of University of Arizona writes, can we talk about how annoying it is that Avi Loeb promotes speculative theories about alien origins, forcing the rest of us to do scientific grunt work of walking back these rumors? So yeah, he's not exactly a figure that's completely beloved. It's somebody that I think really wants to be the first finger pointer at anything alien. And honestly, I can kind of understand the frustration of some of the other people in the sphere, if you're just trying to like debunk claims or explain to the average person that, no, maybe this isn't really Anomalous yet. But now the newest thing is obviously 31 Atlas. So right over here, this paper alongside Adam Hibbard and Adam Kroll, they're going and saying, at this early stage of passage, 31 Atlas, the recently discovered interstellar interloper, has displayed various anomalous characteristics, determined with photometric and astrometric observations, is largely a pedagogical exercise. In this paper, we present additional analysis into the astrodynamics of 31 Atlas. But I have no idea about any of this alien technology shit. I'm just an interested space observer, okay? I played way too much No Man's Sky to admit it. I haven't given any more money to Star Citizen, but goddamn, it's the closest I'm gonna get to exploring the fucking stars. I need this to be real, or at least something entertaining. So look here, they mention things like, obviously, the Fermi paradox, which for anybody that doesn't know that, the Fermi paradox is the belief that since we haven't encountered any aliens, maybe there is some great filter that sort of kills life when it becomes too advanced, which is a pretty scary thing to think about, being alone in the universe, right? But of course, then they go down over here, and of course, they bring up certain pieces of evidence. So for instance, the orbital plane of 31 Atlas lies virtually in the ecliptic through retrograde, okay? So then, of course, they also say that it's too large to be an asteroid, which, yes, some things can be too large. I believe when you get past, like, 900 kilometers diameter, they just start calling things like dwarf planets or something. So, of course, they say that 31 Atlas shows no evidence of cometary outgassing. So, when, like, an ice giant gets near the sun and it starts, like, fucking heating up and, like, giving off gas? This appears to show no evidence of that. It approaches unusually close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. It achieves perihelion on the opposite side of the sun to Earth. The optimal point to do a reverse solar oberth and stay bound to the sun is at the perihelion. So yeah, this is all the evidence. Then again, if you're like an astrophysicist watching, you can agree or disagree with Loeb or his team. So he even mentions how that Oumuamua, like when they were talking about like the discourse around it, and he said that it was mired in bitter controversy. Yet nevertheless, it seems the authors as a hypothesis perfectly worthy of pursuing, in a similar fashion to the hypothesis proposed in this paper. So they employed something called optimum interplanetary trajectory software. Sounds like something out of System Shock. The interplanetary mission design tool to investigate the likelihood and implication of 31 Atlas being an alien spacecraft. Is it an Anomalous? Is it? Well, we have to see. So they say if 31 Atlas is alien tech, okay, they start bringing up again its pathing, right? They bring up like its orbital speed, they bring up kinetic energy, they bring up a whole bunch of things here. So, of course, one of the big pieces of like evidence they bring up is the fact that this approaches very close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter during its visit, as we've seen in the map earlier. So, of course, when they analyze it, right, by varying the time of entry into the solar system, assuming 31 Atlas could have any time come into it and happened to do so such that it came within the observed close approaches of Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, the probability of that alone is 0.005%. So obviously they even admit in this paper too that yeah, we're probably looking for like patterns, and the human brain is really good at trying to like find a pattern, especially when there isn't a pattern sometimes, right? They even say it. As extremely strange as that appears, the propensity for the human brain to see patterns in what is actually random scatter is well known. At the heart of this, any self-respecting scientist will have to address at some point in their career: is an outlier of a sample a consequence of random expected fluctuation, or is there ultimately a sound reason for that discrepancy? Could it be alien life? Or is it just bullshit? So yeah, obviously, I think the media kind of took this paper and went even further than they had to. Because obviously, when you start looking at like other, reputable like fucking scientific papers like people.com, super fast new comet could be an evil alien technology. Now, I don't know if this is an evil alien technology, to be honest. I don't know if there's anything that's evil in here. I think if it comes out to, this is probably just like hype beasting by the actual news media. So if you look at this image right over here, this is from like the International Gemini Observatory. To this like whole string of colors. That looks weird, bro. Like that actually looks really weird. And actually, there is a good explanation for this. These rainbow-like colors are actually captured because astronomers take multiple sequential exposures of different color filters all throughout. And it basically shows that this was actually moving. So the light is actually recorded at different positions in each of these filters, which is why it looks like a cool rainbow. Just wanted to add this in to give it a little extra explanation, because I've seen some people think that this is the size of a whole ship, even though there's just no way that a ship is probably going to be that big, okay? And if it is that big, god damn it, I think there's an entire species living on it. But yeah, just one thing that I wanted to add. And of course, obviously, look, I'm not going to sit here and just like show Avi Loeb's greatest hits. I wanted to show you this because it seems like Avi Loeb is a guy that has a pretty good track record for the most part, but in like the recent years, a lot of people have kind of said that he wants to be the one guy that almost just, he wants to become the individual that is literally going to be the one that discovers aliens, right? Like this one user writes, he so badly wants to be the astronomer that first discovers aliens just so that he just won't have any evidence to the contrary. Not to mention his toxicity behind the scenes is rather unbelievable. Now the thing about Avi Loeb is obviously he has a financial incentive with his book and projects like the Galileo Project. And I would imagine that, for him, he's got a pretty established career, worked at pretty big places, and now he kind of has jumped into it. And I hate to use the term grifter here because, again, he does have a career, right? It's not like I'm looking at Terrence Howard and even I could debunk him. This is a guy that has some serious cred. But the way that he reacts around people that have, I would say, equivalent credentials, or, people that have also worked in great places is insane. So, for instance, this is Jill Tarter, a former director at SETI. She asks a pretty, honest question, right? She's frustrated. Listen to this.
So, Avi, I get a little bit pissed off when you throw the entire scientific culture under the bus, because some of us have been thinking about and building instruments to find anomalies for a very long time. And I think that when we say that if we ever are going to announce such a detection, that we require extraordinary evidence, we're doing that as a way of differentiating ourselves from the pseudoscience that is so much a part of popular culture.
So Jill's got a great point here. You know, she's basically saying, listen, you're like a Harvard guy. You are the establishment, okay? You're not some, guy, you're not some maverick who's out in the wild. This guy has had a long stoic career that basically has allowed him to be called by a lot of these big, a lot of these big media organizations. So they can use, the Harvard, astrophysicist, the Harvard expert as the, basis for, this alien spacecraft story. And she's right. If it's not 100% proven, all the other people have to waste time trying to disprove this shit to everybody else out there. Now, his response is actually wild. He gets a little frazzly here, so listen to this.
To your first point, I'm talking about a factor of 1,000 in funding. I'm not talking about a factor of 2 over a decade increase in funding. I'm saying there is a discrepancy by a factor of 1,000 in what needs to be the case relative to what is the case of the community that you are talking about. A factor of 1,000 is a big factor in funding. And moreover, it's even a bigger factor in bullying, because anyone that makes a suggestion in the direction of technological signature is being bullied and ridiculed.
I don't
wait a second. Let me finish. Now, my second point is,
so the funding really hits me because I think it becomes pretty apparent what Avi and his team are kind of reaching for. It's just give us this money to prove this alien spacecraft theory is true, even though it's in the face of so much disapproval and legitimate disapproval from other valid experts in the field too. I mean, it's kind of crazy, it is insane. But again, what gets me over here is his reaction going forward, right? This guy starts going after the bloggers who discuss this. Listen to this.
We need extraordinary evidence and then step on the grass and not allow it to grow, which is currently the case. We need extraordinary evidence, but anyone that mentions this possibility is ridiculed by some blogger that doesn't even write a single paper in a decade. That makes no sense whatsoever. This blogger should first practice science.
Well, some of us do.
No, let me finish. How dare people make statements about scientists that explore these possibilities within the scientific method? That's the acidic culture that I'm talking about.
Now you can watch this exchange in entirety, and the reality is, unlike traditional online internet drama, this got sorted out pretty easy. I think Avi emailed Jill, and then he was like, "Yeah, I get what you did in the field." They sort of hashed it out. And the thing is, when you look at it from the sidelines, and you're a dumbass like me, you can kind of almost see both points. She doesn't want to blatantly fund pseudoscience, and he just thinks that, hey man, this is a wild theory. I want at least people to be researching into it. And the thing is, I kind of agree with Jill a little bit more, obviously, with the rest of the scientists. This is not the only guy that is an expert in the field, right? He's just the guy that's saying that this is the one thing that could be an alien. And obviously, other researchers at SETI, senior researchers, have kind of looked at this stuff and said, look, nothing about these asteroids show that there is a possibility of them being anything more than a natural occurrence. A rare natural occurrence, but a natural occurrence. And of course, obviously, they also contend that because this guy's a Harvard physicist or Harvard researcher, Harvard expert, you do have to kind of take him somewhat seriously in regards to this. Again, this is not a Terrence Howard that we're talking about. This is somebody with real cred. And of course, when it comes to other scientists that have looked at this entire situation too, Daryl Seligman of Michigan State University writes, there's been pretty numerous telescopic observations that 31 Atlas is just displaying classical signatures of cometary activity. Samantha Lawler at University of Regina in Canada represent. All evidence points to this being an ordinary comet that was ejected from another solar system. Just as countless of billions of comets have been ejected from our own solar system. And I think a lot of this comes from the fact that, yeah, Avi Loeb is a guy from Harvard, right? And it's a pretty huge thing for him to be, saying. And the thing about this is usually, I would say that obviously for somebody that is at Harvard, I would imagine that, he probably is somebody that, A, genuinely really believes in this, he's drank his own sauce. Or the other thing is he's probably trying to sell a book or something based off of his, background or his expertise in the field, right? This almost reminds me too a similar story of a guy named Dr. Stephen Greer. I was about to say Bob Lazar for some reason, but Dr. Stephen Greer was somebody that I actually spoke to on a podcast. This was many years ago. But, you know, one of the things that immediately kind of like freaked me out a little bit over here was like, we were talking about things like, I think it was remote viewing or something of that nature, like contact with aliens. And then he told us about this application that he had, like $13 at this point. You can look at this on the App Store. And I was just like, I don't know how comfortable I feel when it comes to like, you know, I guess doctors or experts who are selling these like applications and providing assistance on making peaceful contact with civilizations, as well as making a social network for people who are interested in making contact. It almost, again, I hate to use the term grifter here, but it almost seems like, you know, somebody's using these credentials and then they're putting up an application that is sold for actual money so that people can go and purchase it. I mean, honestly, I feel like if you had the love of the game, this might have just been like a free application to get in touch. Generally, I feel when money is involved, that's when things get a little bit hazy. Now, going back to Avi Loeb and his discussion on Oumuamua, obviously it probably like aggravated a bunch of other individuals. Like some of his peers were galled, saying that he's overreaching, repeating all of these claims without any form of actual evidence. And of course, obviously, for the community watching here 2 years ago, one guy writes, Avi Loeb is well known on UFO sites for his pro-spaceship philosophies. He also makes a lot of money from writing books about it and doing concert tours. Hardly a non-committed neutral scientist. And obviously there have been other people, I assume some of these bloggers that were mentioned earlier were people who were talking about Oumuamua and debunking this for themselves. Again, obviously this is one Harvard scientist bringing this crazy outlandish theory and not really providing a whole lot in terms of tangible evidence about this. And again, the closest people have any idea of what this kind of looks like is this shape right here. Now, I believe it's, I believe at the time, I think it was called a solar sail. And, you know, other scientists have kind of debunked it and said that it wouldn't have made a good solar sail given its actual dimensions. But again, I'm not an expert on this, okay? I'm just somebody that wants aliens to be real, but I try to speak about this within reason, and I don't want to spread misinformation. The 31 Atlas, that paper we looked at, I just also want to say that this is not peer-reviewed. Obviously, peer review is pretty important, just because you need other people to verify if your claims are actually true, especially when it comes to aliens. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, the mystery of 31 Atlas, a space interstellar evil object that the media has dubbed, seems at this point to be nothing more than a quinky-dink comet floating around. Now, do I want this to be alien stuff? Absolutely. Do I really hope that this is alien technology? Sure. And who knows? You know, like I said, always keep your mind open. You know, because in the next 12 months, 24 months, who knows? You know, this could just be another comet that flies by and then whatever, we forget about it. But if there's a chance that this is an interstellar alien object, then, you know, what's the harm if somebody can actually end up proving it? For now, though, I will say that this has caused quite a fair bit of hoopla in the UFO, UAP community. And, you know, I've been in this community for a couple of years now when I talk about this stuff, and I'll just be real, like I always point to that like Wojak. It's like nothing ever happens, you know, like you get the little, nothing ever happens. I always scribe by that mentality. And if something does happen, awesome. But ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and yeah, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like it, just like an eye. I'm out.